based on your profile, you were supposed to be a musician, but you chose to become a CCIE. How that happened?
You had to say it like that. Yeah.
Your
How
LinkedIn
did
profile doesn't lie.
Yeah, it's a long journey. Yeah, I'm still a musician, right? And
Okay.
I spend a large part of my time when I'm not doing tech, right?
Hmm.
A large part of my time doing music. Before I ever started doing music, I was sorry, tech actually. I
Yeah.
was a music producer, right? And
Okay.
I did quite a number of songs that,
With Akon.
come on.
I don't know.
Nah, not with Akon. There are a few artists in on radio, but I also did personal production for myself. I learned music production because I wanted to produce myself, and then
Hmm.
I think a few friends heard it and thought they liked it, so they wanted me to produce them too. That's how I got into that space. But after a
Okay.
while, tech came in. I fell in love with that one also, and then
Hmm.
started to do tech, and that took a lot of my time. That's how I'm here. And
Okay. What happened with tech? How you got started?
yeah, long story. When I finished college, I'm Jacob Akande from Nigeria, technical consulting engineer with Cisco Tech, right? And that's where I am currently. But when I finished, I studied metallurgical and material engineering in the university, Nigeria. And
A
yeah,
lot of things
that's not
that
what I
doesn't make
applied for. So
sense. A
I'm not
lot of,
that.
and we're going to talk a lot of more things that don't make sense in your profile.
No, don't worry. That's not what I applied for in the university. I In Nigeria, if you apply for a course and you either don't meet up with the cutoff points for the course, or the number of candidates they're admitting, they've exceeded the threshold, they send other candidates to other departments, right? So yeah, that's how I found myself. I applied for electrical engineering actually, and they moved me to metallurgical and material engineering. So I started to study that, which I wasn't really interested in until my fourth year. And it was in the fourth year I really understood I really understood
That
what
was
was going
what that
on.
was at the end.
Yeah, that was pretty. It's a 5 year course. So at the
Okay.
beginning of my fourth year was when I realized, oh, this is what this thing is about. And I started to pay attention to it. But at the time, all the damage of not knowing what I was doing was already done to my grades. Yeah, so I finished university. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life. I knew that I was doing music already at the time, and a little cash here and there was coming in with music. I There's this 1 year program that we do in Nigeria. It's called NYSC, right? NYSC is an acronym for, my God, what's that? Is it National or Nigeria? National Youth Service Corps. That's what it's called. So they train you for 3 weeks in the military, not military training per se, but they camp all graduates that year in different camps in the country, different states in the country, and then they'll train you for 3 weeks. After which they'll deploy you to a totally strange place you've never been, to serve the country for about a year, right? So you are there, they'll push you to a sector that, the idea is to push you to a sector that is related to what you studied in the university, so you can sort of work and give back. Is the
Mm.
country's way of integrating, um, people integrating with each other, because the country has about 500, over 500 languages and different
Nigeria.
cultures. Yeah, Nigeria. So people living in the north speak different languages from people living in the south, and then even within southern Nigeria, you have so many different languages. So if you grew up in a state in Nigeria, there are 36 of them. If you grew up in one state, you can find it difficult to interact with someone who grew up in another state, apart from English language, right? The English language is the official language the entire country uses. But yeah, we also have this tiny little, not tiny little, is a big one, but is our version of the English language called Pidgin English. That helps us interact
That's like
easily.
the common language between. All the
between
states.
everybody. Yeah, everybody speaks pidgin English, but then there are variants of that pidgin English. So it make because every language adds their words
Hmm.
into the pidgin English, so it makes
Okay.
it a lot more complicated. So the country's way of making sure that people integrate with each other is for everybody who finishes from a university,
To
you're
this
sent to
place.
another part of Nigeria to do your youth service there, the NYC program. So while I was doing that, I was pushed to a northern state. While I was doing that, I wanted to get into tech, right? Because at the time, metallurgical and material engineering, I knew that there are not too many steel companies in Nigeria, right? Yes,
Hmm.
Nigeria has the biggest steel company in, I think, West Africa. I can't even remember, but at the time, yeah, that one would be saturated already. Plus, it wasn't even functional. So, if they employed you, you wouldn't be doing exactly what you studied in school. I
Hmm.
just didn't. I was lost. I did. I had a lot of reflecting time, right, during that 1 year program, and it was at that time I decided to get into tech. I remember that in my university, we there was this building I used to walk past. They had a Cisco networking academy,
Hmm.
right? And that felt like the lowest hanging fruit for me because the place I was posted to do my youth service was about an hour, not maybe about 2 hours drive from my university, right? So
Hmm.
I I I registered for the CCNA program, CCNA one. Then it was 1 to 4. Now I think it's
Yeah.
1 to 3. I registered for the CCNA program, and then I used to travel from the state in Nigeria, Katsina, that's the name of the state, to Zaria, ABU Zaria, for my CCNA classes. So I'll travel and then come back. Then I kept doing that for maybe about 2 months, right? Then wrote CCNA one, had to pay again for CCNA two, wrote CCNA two, did that, and then yeah, I did all of that training. At the time I was wrapping up the 1 year program. I was
Mm.
at CCNA four, getting ready for the actual CCNA composite exam, right?
So you wanted to take
And
the CCNA exam, the
sorry?
certification. You wanted to take the CCNA
I
certification.
wanted to. I didn't just want to be trained. I wanted to take the CCNA certification and I think what challenged me to do that in one of the CCNA classes, just like you were talking earlier, you said you like hard things, right?
Yeah, man, that's on me, man.
I think what challenged me to do that, we were in the class, I think it was CCNA 2, I can't remember. One of the instructors, the really great guy, he became my very good friend and he's in the UK now, cool guy. He mentioned that, oh yeah, you're just doing this course. Only about 30% of the people who do this course end up getting this certification. When he said that, it bothered me, right? I'm like, why will anybody waste so much time? Plus, I was coming from a different state to
Hmm.
to this state to come attend this class, and you're telling me only 30% of almost 100 people in this class are going to write
Only
it.
the best ones.
It disturbed me big time. And then that was the drive for me in my head. I'm like, why do it and not go all the way, right? So I decided that I was going to write the certification. I finished that program, the yearly program, the 1 year program rather, and then now I went back to my university, got an apartment, it's small room, right?
Hmm.
And just stayed there so I could be very close to the academy, go there once in a while, practice. And yeah, at the time, I don't know, I think it's still the same. If you score a certain amount, a certain grade in your final CCNE 4 exam, you
Hmm.
would have a certain discount to take the certification exam. So I scored that high, I think 90%, right? And then I think it was a 60% discount to take the certification exam, and I still it's really expensive, $300, right? I still didn't have it because I wasn't working at the time. I didn't have enough money to pay for the other part, right? So I reached out to my elder sister. I'm like, see, I really need this. I had to embellish that story because I needed her to borrow me money so I could take the
Mm.
certification before my discount voucher expires, right? So I was telling her, look, usually when people get these certifications, they get a job immediately. I had to
Yeah.
beef up that story, and she borrowed me the money. When I did, it was a huge risk for me because I promised her I would pay her back, which I don't think I ever did till today. It was a huge risk for me because I was borrowing money. I think it was just fair because I was borrowing money from family, right?
Hmm.
But it was a huge risk at the time because I wasn't even sure what the CCNA questions looked like. I'd never written any such exam in my life, right?
Mm.
So I traveled to another state to write the exam. That particular one, I mean, it ripped my brain apart because the exam was really weird. The room I wrote it had cameras. You know how the CCNA exam is when you write in a test center. So the what blew my mind with that exam, and that's why I felt like I was called to do tech, right? That exam, the cutoff point or the pass mark was I think it was 810 at the time when you click to submit your exam, your score displays if you
Yeah.
passed, right? They
Yeah.
show you your score. The passing mark was 810 for that particular one I wrote. It was over 8,000 and I scored 810, right?
So you
Like
passed.
I was right on top of it.
Oh
Yeah.
my. Yes, bro.
I was right on top of it. It was a shocker, right? Because I thought I was going to fail. It was a shocker. I came out feeling like a hero. And that was when I decided that, yeah, I think I want to keep, because I loved what I was learning, right?
Mm.
Even though the only place I could practice at the time was Packet Tracer, right? But it
Okay.
was just cool to know that if I drag in a laptop here, drag in a desktop here, put two switches close to each other, put a router here, I can make this guy communicate with this guy. And
Mm.
it was really interesting to me. So, and then knowing that if you give me those equipments in real life, I can make it happen just by reproducing what I was typing in Packet
Hmm.
Tracer was just fascinating to me. Yeah, that's how I got into tech.
Okay, so that's wild. And people back then, we're talking how many years ago?
This was in 2015, 2016.
2015. So around 10, 9 years ago.
Yeah,
And
thereabout.
the resource that you use was Cisco Packet Tracer. That
Packet Tracer
still,
Network Academy.
yes, still to this day available. It's available for free. It's a tool that anyone can download and start using to learn
That's an
networking,
amazing tool.
right?
Really amazing tool. It's still available.
Yeah, and still available. Okay, you get your CCNA. What happens next? Did you
Yeah.
get a job immediately?
Nope.
So tell us the story.
I was on my own for another. So if I got it in 2015, 16, I know that I didn't get a tech job until 2019.
4 years
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. And it was a weird one because I was called for, I know but what I did, while even though I didn't have a tech job, one of the things I was really fascinated by was this liked the fact that I've always liked to teach, right? So I I really enjoyed how my academy instructors taught the subject,
Okay.
right? Or taught topics in, for example, up till now, there are certain topics I think about, access lists, spanning tree. When I'm thinking about them, I feel like I'm thinking those topics in the voices of my instructors.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
they were really cool guys, and very knowledgeable guys. So at the time, I also wanted to become a Cisco instructor. So I was thinking to myself that if I couldn't get a job immediately with the CCNA I have,
Hmm.
if I enroll for the Cisco instructor training, if I become an accredited instructor, I should be able to push for getting a job in the academy. Yeah, so I wanted to try to go that route. So I enrolled for the course. One of the instructors was not, I would not say generous, but it just so happened that at the time he wanted to create a course. It was about the same time that I was interested in doing the course. So
Okay.
I think we were just two of us who were interested, and we paid, and I had to borrow money again.
Again.
And we paid for it. I cooked up one of those kind of stories. Yeah, so paid for that one. I finished the instructor course, but and then I got accredited, right, to train CCNA, right.
Hmm.
So I could create classes for CCNA, but you would need to be attached to a networking academy to do that. So a networking academy has to employ you.
Mm-hmm.
Then under them, you would create courses for CCNA students, right? So I became accredited, but I didn't have an employer yet. I didn't have an academy who wanted
Yeah.
me to be an instructor with them. So I just chilled. Meanwhile, while I was waiting, the guy who trained us, what I did was I volunteered to help with, maybe if he trains students, I would just try to be around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if students have issues, I can attempt to help them. Packet tracer issues, there were physical equipment there too. So we could try to do all of those password recovery things with switches and routers. Yeah, just attempt to help get hands on, help people with installing packet tracer, help people with commands, right? And yeah, while I was doing that, there was a program they did one time. The networking academy in Nigeria is quite strong, right? So they did a program one time in Lagos where instructors were supposed to come together. I think it's called Instructor Development Program, IDP, something
Mm.
like that. So they have all the contacts for all accredited instructors in Nigeria, whether you work in an academy or not, right? So one of the organizers reached out. I just was there's a WhatsApp group where pretty much everyone is. One of the organizers of that event just randomly messaged me. I don't know how and I don't know why, right? He just messaged me and said, "Are you part of an academy?" I said no. He said, "But you are accredited to instruct, like to teach CCNA." I said yes. He said, "Okay, send me your CV."
Just
And
like that.
I just, yes, just like that. And that this was sometime in late 2018, right? So I sent him. I put everything together. This time I didn't have work experience, right? But I just told him, yeah, I'm just interning, right, in ABU Zaria Networking Academy. And yeah, I put all of that in the CV, sent to him. Then I didn't hear from him again. And so I think sometime in January 2019, I got an email from a company in Lagos asking me to come for an interview. Like, okay, I don't really know who you are, but
Let's see.
the tricky part for me was I was living in Kaduna, which is up north in Nigeria. Lagos is somewhere in the southwest, right?
Oh.
Is a distance, and I had to go there, travel there. It was just good that I had family there, my elder sister. So I moved there, stayed there for some time with her family, and then went for the interview. It was a very funny interview because first it was my first ever tech interview. I sat in front of the CEO and the co-founder is a woman. It was three of us on the table. First, I was bothered because I was wondering why I'm in the interview with the CEO of the company, right? Because it didn't make any sense to me. They should have maybe tech a city, not it should at least at most be the CTO, right? They should have a manager or director somewhere, IT manager who I should be talking with. But then I sat with him. It was really impressive how he thought, right? The CEO, he's a really smart tech guy. He knows a lot. I would argue that he's one of the most intelligent people I've met.
Hmm.
And then he's asking me, "Oh, I see on your CV that you know some stuff with virtualization." I said, "Oh yes, VMware." At the time, I didn't even know ESXi existed. All I knew was Workstation and Oracle VirtualBox.
VirtualBox,
So
yeah.
I'm like, "Oh yes, I know Oracle VirtualBox." He said, "Do you know ESXi?" I said, "No, I don't." He's like, "Okay, don't worry, we'll train you." Which is weird because I'm not even in yet.
We'll train you.
Yep. I wasn't even in yet, and he's like, "Don't worry, we'll train you. Do you know anything about servers?" I'm like, "Oh yes, I know HP, Dell." He's like, "Have you heard of Cisco servers?" I'm like, "No, I don't." Like, "So you don't know what UCS is?" I said, "No, I don't know what UCS is." I mean, I think he was just impressed that I wasn't lying about anything, right?
Okay.
So he's like, "You don't know what UCS is?" I'm like, "No, I don't." And he's like, "Okay, okay, no worries, we'll train you. What do you know about routing and switching?" I told him CCNA level stuff, right? I'm pushing for the CCIE now. Sorry, CCMP now.
Mm,
At the time, the CCMP was three exams, right? Route,
yeah.
switch, and
Troubleshoot.
T-shoot, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Interestingly, and it's a very weird story. So I said, "Yeah, CCNA level stuff, but I'm working towards the CCMP already." He's like, "Oh, that's nice. Let's see how it goes. What's the highest level you plan to get to with Cisco technologies?" I'm like, "Yeah, CCIE. I don't think I want anything less than that." And at the time, I'm not sure I had even thought about that. I don't know why I answered like that. And
Just
he's
said it
like,
like.
"Okay, nice. Don't worry, we'll train you." Same exact things. He kept saying, "Don't worry, we'll train you." I saw the faces of the other people on the table. They're like, "Dude, we have not taken this guy yet. Why are you training him?"
Yeah. What do you see that we don't
What that
see?
we don't see. And honestly, I don't know, right? So I left that place feeling like, yeah, it was a good interview, but I kept wondering why nobody asked me what is the administrative distance for OSP. it
Nerd.
was it was not a technical interview whatsoever. I mean, there was nothing technical about that interview. I just went there. The next question I had, which I couldn't ask them at the time, was, "How did you guys get my CV?" Because I'd never sent a CV to them. And they said, "Oh, don't worry, you hear from us in the next 2 weeks." And true to their word, they gave me an offer 2 weeks later to come resume with them. And so this is what they had. They were setting up an infrastructure, right? Cisco switches, Nexus switches, right? Cisco routers, ISR series, and then a couple of fabric interconnects with UCS routers. Sorry, UCS servers. Those UCS server they had about 13, right? 13 UCS servers. Those servers are expensive. I work for Cisco, so I know.
Yeah.
But they are very good and they are different from what's obtainable in the market, right?
Market.
The idea, the how the server abstracts the software from the hardware, and then you can give service profiles to give the server an identity that didn't come from the factory, right?
Mm.
It's really really impressive. So at the time I didn't know anything about that. He also didn't know much about UCS. I mean the CEO, right?
He's the
But
CEO, right?
yeah, he's the CEO.
Doesn't have to like.
Yeah, no, but the problem was he was trying to build a tech team, right? And he was hiring from scratch. He didn't want to bring in guys who, in quote, already knew this technology. He wanted to have all the equipment, bring a set of guys who knew stuff, right? Then get them trained and
Mm.
then let them play with these equipments and set it up. That's what he was looking for. You know the weird part, he at the same time, the same company reached out to my instructor, the guy who trained me for Cisco instructor training and CCNA, right? They reached out to him and they're like, they wanted to work with him. And he came for an interview like that, but I didn't know. He also didn't know I did the interview. And then he and I were talking randomly, just talking
Hmm.
other stuff. And he mentioned that he went for an interview in Lagos. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I also went for an interview in Lagos." He asked me the name of the company. I told him. He's like, wait, those are the guys who interviewed me yesterday. So somehow we ended up working together, right? Him as my boss, of course, because he had more experience. He had dealt with a lot of switching. He had done enterprise switching and routing for a very long time. I had not, right? I only
Okay.
knew lab. I only had lab experience, right? He had worked with the devices, but he didn't know UCS. He didn't know server. He knew nothing about this server part of things, but he was just a routing and switching guy. So
We're
they put
talking
two
about
of
data
us.
center
Yeah, data
expertise. Yeah.
center. He didn't know data center stuff. He just knew routing and switching.
Mm-hmm.
So they put both of us together on the same team with another guy. We were three of them. We were three of us rather. The guy came from the UK at the time, so he joined the team. And yeah, he had some. He was also a CCNA guy, right? So for every routing and switching stuff, we looked up to my instructor, right? Because he already knew what he was doing. He had his CCMP at the time, but for every server related stuff, we all were lost. So we went back to the CEO, dude, we need to get trained, right? He's like, yeah, no worries. I knew you guys would need training. I don't know why you're just bringing it up now. So,
Yeah. I was
so
waiting for
yeah,
that.
reach out to a company that does training and who can train you in UCS and everything you need, VMware, everything. Let's see what we can do and get to pay them. So we reached out to a company in India. We did some training online. Then we got, I think there was this Cisco niche solution, Cisco's attempt at hyper-converged infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
Hyperflex.
Yeah.
That was what we're trying to implement. And yeah, it was very new at the time, right? We couldn't find documentation online. I opened cases with Cisco TAC. Now that I'm in Cisco TAC, it's really weird, but I opened cases with Cisco TAC, and at the time, it was so difficult to get someone on TAC team who knew Hyperflex, right? All we were trying to do was not even day two operations; we were at day zero, right? We're trying to bring stuff up, and we couldn't find a document that talked about it start to finish. So it was difficult. So we reached out to the guys in India, flew him down to Nigeria from India. He came to do a week training with us. With all due respect, with all due respect, we did an entire week training Monday to Friday, and then we went with this guy to. And don't get me wrong, the guy is really good. He knows his stuff, right? But I think he might have just been like me, who was in the academy, but might have not worked with the equipment, right?
Mm.
So we went to the data. We were like, after the training, okay, now let's take you to our data center, right? So we'll try to bring
Hands
this
on.
environment on up. And we got there and everybody was stuck again, right? Including our instructor from India. And he had to leave that night back to India. So we were at the point
Luckily
where,
for him.
yeah, lucky for him actually. We're at the point again where now we had knowledge, but the knowledge we had was not enough, right? So I feel like that's what pulled me into data center. That experience, right?
Mm.
Because when he flew back to India, my CEO had paid a lot of money for training for us, right? And then how do we justify how
That
do we
investment.
reconcile the story? It wouldn't make sense if he has spent that amount of money and now his equipment and his infrastructure is still down. Yeah, so that's when I started to spend nights at the data center with Douglas, my instructor. Sorry, I mentioned names.
Oh no, no problem. That's great. Probably we're having it in the future also.
Yeah, really cool guy. We started to spend nights at the data center. I mean, it's really crazy. We would be there all day, right? Build stuff, build the networking part, build the Nexus switches, the Fabric interconnect, then start to see how things will work. We realize NTP is a problem. We'll tear down the entire infrastructure again and then start to build again. So we did that for almost 3 months
Why?
every day. Yeah, every day for almost 3 months. We kept going back to the data center pretty much every day. Of course, maybe not Saturday and Sundays.
Yeah.
Saturdays, almost 3 months every day. Went data center, sat down there in the cold. And the way the data center is in Nigeria, I don't know if it's the same way everywhere else. There were no chairs, right? So we had to
You can't
sit.
have
There's
such.
the cold aisle and then the warm aisle where we could do our cables were long enough to plug to the front at
Hmm.
the cold aisle, right? And then we will come there, sit. When we start to catch too much cold, we'll go to the back and just chill there and gist for a while, then come back. It was a crazy time for us. But then I think I learned that season, I learned pretty much everything that not
Related
everything,
with
but
data center. But
everything,
you
yeah.
learn a lot with
I
data
learned a
center.
lot. I learned a lot. The drive again for me was when I look at the lives of, for example, before I started to work for that organization, I used to assume my approach to study was really weird. I used to assume that yeah, when you read stuff and you know it, you just know it. That's all, right? You just know it. But at the time, I realized that people who I thought knew stuff, right, were also having sleepless nights reading new stuff. You understand? So it was
Totally.
then I figured, oh no, there's no end to this study
No
lifestyle.
end, man. No
You have
end.
to just keep going. There's always something new. I remember I'll probably speak with Douglas. We came back from the data center at past 9 at night, right? And then I'm talking to him when I just got home. I'm saying I'm going to bed and all. He's like, okay, yeah, tomorrow morning we'll go again by 8 a.m., right? And then I'm with Douglas the next morning and he's telling me something he read around 3 a.m. in the morning. And I'm like, dude, I'm sleeping.
This,
and, and at this time, he was my boss, right?
yeah,
So I'm thinking for every time I'm tempted to have fun, right? And I remember Douglas is likely studying now. In my head, I just sit up and go pick up a book. Yeah, I mean that season in my life really changed how I approached a lot of things.
mm.
Yeah, and that's where I am. I can't even remember what you asked me, but I just kept on
Yeah.
talking.
No, the thing is, these data centers, these environments with problems. Actually, this is where we grow. And I tell this to everyone: if you want to grow, go in an environment where they have a lot of problems, but don't go in an environment where they have everything running.
Fixed,
You're just going
correct.
to sit there and you're going to YouTube and you won't learn. You have to learn where they have problem. There is fire. I'm going to clear the fire. We don't know. Figure out. Yeah. And you're trying to do this every day. You're trying to keep the network
You're right.
up. You have to build resilience, high availability, all of these things. You will only learn in environments where it doesn't work. And
You're
I
right.
believe that's what helped you. So during that time, did you take any certification or you were just doing
Hmm.
hands on?
At the time, right?
Yeah.
I already had the CCNA, right? And
Yeah.
the good thing is that that CEO I spoke about,
Mm.
he's that guy, right? He apart from my Douglas guy I spoke about, one of the people who really shaped my study lifestyle, right, was this guy. And he's the CEO of the company. He's interacting with so many stakeholders at different levels, right? I was just fascinated at how knowledgeable he was, right? Dude is he's really busy. I knew he was really busy, but for every time I sent him a message on WhatsApp, he responded, right? And I kept wondering, this dude, and I'm saying he responded, he also went as far as sending me messages at say maybe 2 a.m. at night, and I'm wondering what are you doing? First, he's not a broke guy, right? He has money. I'm wondering why are you working so hard, right? You could just send me this message. He's sending me a message at 2 a.m. asking me if the email server we talked about is now up and running. So it's really crazy. He's a guy who likes to study, right?
Mm.
One of the things he wanted us to do was to get certified. And you know he promised already. I know what do you want to do? We'll train you. What do you want to do? We'll train you, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So he reached out to say, yeah, I need you guys to tell me what path you guys want to take, right? Individually. I noticed Douglas is more enterprise routing, switching direction. Is that the same path you want to go? Anybody interested in collaboration, anybody interested in data center security. And he made all of us tell him what we wanted to do, right? And of course, he sets higher goals for us than we could set for ourselves, because he's like, you look, when you tell me what you want to do, I also have things I want you guys to do, right? So
Yeah.
say what you want, and then we'll talk about what I want, and then we'll find where we meet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I told him I was interested in data center, right? He wanted us to do everybody, not just one person. Data center, security, enterprise, and collaboration. All of them. Like, no excuse. You had to do all of them. So he's like, look, at the end of the day, that's what I want. But because you are interested in something, we'll start with what you are interested in. Right? So you like data center? What's the next step for you in data center? I'm like, a CCMP in data center. He's like, okay, yeah, so let's get that. He paid for the certification, and then we wrote that same thing he did for the other guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise, and yeah, the other guy was also enterprise. He had to do his CCNA again because it was expired. So I
Okay.
wrote my CCMP. I failed the core exam. He At the time I'm talking about now, Cisco just made that change for data center. This was in 2020, I think,
2020.
somewhere close
Yeah.
to the pandemic.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
made that
2020.
change from the exams, the CCMP exams, to
Mm-hmm.
one core exam and multiple concentration
Mm-hmm.
exam. So I failed the core exam. I went to him. I'm like, oh, I was disappointed in myself. And then I went to him. I'm like, dude, I failed this exam. He's like, oh, yeah, I will take it again. That was his response. That was his response to those kind of things. You
Yeah.
failed it. Oh, okay, yeah, let's take it again. And then so I scheduled it again, and this time I passed it. That's how I got my CCMP.
Okay.
And yeah, I also told him, and at this point, my approach to study had changed already, because at this point I was already getting interested in, apart from learning how the company I work, how their infrastructure works, right? I was starting to get interested in emerging technologies to see what's the trend, how things happen, how things plug into things, how technologies connect with other technologies. Apart from understanding how to configure these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The software that sits on the server that I'm working on, how do they use the resources I'm giving to them? Paying attention to some security related stuff. So I realized, since I'm a networking academy instructor, and I could easily just take a DevNet course, right?
Mm.
On the academy platform, I decided to go for it. And I told him I wanted to do the CCNA DevNet certification. He's like, oh yeah, let's go for it. It will be cool. And then the company had a few interns that we were also responsible for training. So at this point, a staff working infrastructure, I mean, doing infrastructure stuff at the data center. But then also I had about 20 interns that I was also
Mm.
training to know as much as I do. I I was an academy instructor, so I had the responsibility of making sure those guys got their CCNA. So I had to train them and
Mm.
then give them as much hands-on as possible with spare equipment I had in the data center. So it was a lot of things happening for me at the time. I learned to It felt like all the stuff I was reading in the past about while I was doing my CCNA and all, this was the time to put them to use. And while I was doing that, I was also teaching a set of guys who needed that knowledge. Yes, that's how I got my CCNP. And
Data
afterwards,
science,
yeah, the
generative
data
AI.
science thing also came around that time, right?
Mm.
Because this guy would just go on LinkedIn. He's looking for every platform where there's stuff to be learned, and
Mm.
then he reaches out to say, have you heard of these guys? Check them out. He send you the link. You're telling him, oh, it requires a subscription. Yeah, just register, I'll pay, right? So he just made resources available to study, right? And then we didn't have any excuse. So all of us needed to dive deep. And this was what made me know that I didn't have any excuse, right? He
Yeah.
he got a deal from Cisco. I'm not sure how it works with Cisco and partnership, right? But he had a deal with one of Cisco's partners, and there was a course that the partners required his staff to take,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And he registered himself for the course and registered the three of us, the three guys he employed for the course, and told us, yeah, you guys try to do it. After the course, there's a test which you will take. You guys try to do it, and yeah, let me know when you're done so I can tell them to activate my profile. Right. So we didn't know he registered himself. Right. He took that course. He told us to do it. We were lazing around, right?
Uh,
Because we had data center work to do.
yeah.
And then we were all on a WhatsApp group. And then when we were done, not when we were done, on the weekend, say maybe it's Saturday, he posted on the WhatsApp group with a screenshot of his completion of the course and how he passed the exam in the course, right? Took that night, sat down, took that course. I was supposed to be the tech guy. I was supposed to be the IT guy. I failed the final exam, I think about 5 times before I passed it and was able to. And then he said, when you pass it, please post a screenshot of your pass
Yeah.
screenshot here. Yeah. And yeah, every one of us had to go through that. So we knew he was serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
He
knew he
showed.
was serious. Yeah. And just because he did that, I mean, he came to look for us once in the data center, right? We were at this center. He came there. We went for lunch when he came. And then when he got in, he was telling the data center guys, "Oh, I'm the guy that these guys work for, right?" And then they took him to his rack. He got there. He was talking to the data center guys, right? And then when they were done, they were coming out when we were coming back from lunch. And then we just said hi to him. He's like, "Oh yes, I saw what you guys are doing. Nice, good job, guys." And then he left. So when he left, the guys at the data center were asking us, "Oh, that's like your manager, like your IT manager, right?" So we said, "Oh no, that's the CEO of the company." He's like, "No, no, no. Are you joking?" We're like, "Yeah, that's the CEO of the company." He said, "No, that can't be the. I cannot work for that guy. I can't work for that guy. He knows everything. You can't. There's nothing you can tell him that he can't argue with you about." So he's really knowledgeable, and is the inspiring type, not the intimidating type. Yeah, he's really
So he
knowledgeable.
doesn't have to take the certification, but definitely you can tell he's studying.
Yeah, he doesn't have to take it, but he reads pretty much everything.
Okay.
Sometimes it's impressive, other times it's depressing because
I'm
because
supposed to be the expert, not you.
not you, sir.
What am I doing here?
Yeah, but he's till this day, pretty much every time I'm tempted to just chill a little, and that voice in my head comes: if this guy is studying, if Douglas is still studying, what am I doing chilling?
So,
What am I
no.
doing chilling?
But
Yes,
it's great to have people with that type of reference that push you on becoming better every day,
true,
right?
true.
Okay.
You're
So
right.
you stay in that company. That's when you decided to take the CCIE or what?
Certifications. Yeah, so at the company, I decided to take the CCIE, but then I had to leave
Hmm.
because they had a few challenges. And yeah, it's a long story. That I don't think I want to share.
No, no, no problem, no problem. Let's
They had a
let's
few
move to the next
challenges. I had
chapter.
next chapter actually. They had a few challenges. I had to move to another company where I was employed as a network engineer, but this was a company that was more software oriented, right? So they didn't even have infrastructure. They only had stuff at the office, right?
Hmm.
But they wanted a network engineer. At the time, I just needed extra cash, so I had to move to another company, right? When I got there, I didn't have anything to do, right? They had Ubiquiti. Is it Ubiquiti?
Yeah.
Yes, ubiquity wireless devices.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just needed a network engineer. In my head, they didn't need to employ someone, right? I don't know, maybe they had extra cash. So they just needed a network engineer to help set up and then monitor and manage what's going on. So what I was doing in the organization was pretty much users cannot browse what's going on. And in my head, I was like, I want to jump into a Nexus switch and configure stuff. I don't want to sit here trying to tell someone maybe your cable is not plugged in properly. It was just, I did that for about maybe 6 months. Right. And all I did when I went to the office was go there, watch YouTube videos, like you said,
Yeah.
watch YouTube videos. So at the time, I decided, okay, let me study for CCMP Enterprise, right? So I'm
Mm.
not just sitting here. I know that a certification like that doesn't mean anything to the software company because they don't need someone who knows
Mm-hmm.
CCMP Enterprise to do what I'm doing. So I was ready to pay for the certification myself. Yeah, while I was doing that, I got an offer from, I mean, a recruiter reached out to me again, right, through a
Mm-hmm.
friend, I think, asking if I was interested in a certain role. And yeah, that company was Dimension Data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think they just got this deal with Google. They needed someone to manage the interaction between Google data centers
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and customers. So I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, sign me up. Let's see how it goes. I did the
Networking.
interview. It was also this kind of weird interview I had with the first company where they're saying we'll train you, that kind
Mm.
of thing. I got to the interview. I had a meeting with the country manager, right?
Mm.
And the country manager for the company dimensioned it, and then the CTO of the company. So he's like, yeah, it was not a technical interview whatsoever. So I've not done so many technical interviews in my life.
You're a
That's what
lucky
I'm trying
guy.
to say.
You're a lucky
I
guy.
did for Cisco, right? I did for
Yeah.
Cisco, but for that one, it was not a technical interview, and it was weird because the guy kept telling me, the country manager kept telling me, we hired you because you are the only person who didn't come to tell us technical jargon on the interview, right? We could
Mm.
interact with you. Every other person came to talk to us about OSPF, IGRP, and yeah, no, that's not what we're looking for this role. It was a managerial role, right? It was technical operations manager.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, before I left the first company, I was head of systems and networks already. It was a quick jump from knowing nothing to
You met.
becoming head of systems and networks.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of guys reporting to you, then you report to the CEO, right? And
Yeah.
then I went back to be a network engineer for a company who had no infrastructure per se, just wireless infrastructure. And then now I'm with this other company as technical operations manager, right? Handling relationship between Google and Dimension Data and making sure everything Google wants in their Google Cloud setup in Nigeria, Lagos, was done, right? So
Okay.
we'll have meetings with Google. We were the guys on ground to implement. I was leading the implementation team. So the data center was running servers, switches, routers, pretty much
Mm-hmm.
everything was there. But the Juniper equipment there needed more attention than a Cisco equipment would need, right? So
Okay.
they needed hands-on pretty much every time. So I then had to interact with third-party companies that we Dimension Data reached out to pull off all of that cool stuff. It was good. It was a period in my life that shaped how
Mm.
I thought about, I mean, having higher level conversation, not too technical, but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time being technical enough for the technical guys so you can
Yeah.
relay business needs information to them, right? Yeah, so that's what I did at the time. It was at that time I realized pretty much almost, I don't know if that's something to say here, but almost 75% of Google's equipment were Juniper, right?
Mm-hmm.
A few Cisco stuff, the servers were also not Cisco. So I had to start to take Juniper certifications. I didn't need to, But then I already had an attitude that why will I be in charge of this stuff and not know what's going on there, right? So
Okay.
I had to take that certification. I took the JNCIA, I took the JNCIS. That's the specialist. I was going for the JNCIP
Hmm.
before I joined Cisco because I also wanted to do that to the JNCIE.
Hmm.
But then it was then I had to move from that role to Cisco.
The Cisco.
Yeah. So I at this point, if I was in my previous organization, I would already be attempting the CCIE, but I couldn't because I left, and there's no CCIE center in Nigeria. So if I wanted to write it, I have to fly to Europe or some other African country, maybe Egypt or South Africa. I don't know if those even have centers. I'm not sure.
I don't. I know that probably there is in India. Probably in
Yeah,
India. I'm not sure if there is in Dubai. By India, probably. India,
yeah, I mean,
probably.
for me, it was hard to think about it because of the cost. Because
Yeah.
first, to travel would be a lot of cost for me,
Hmm.
and then the exam, right? The
Okay.
the stress of the technical part, the
So you
stress of the
you started
technical part.
thinking or planning about when you joined Cisco, like when you
Yeah,
got
so
really serious about it.
was when I got really serious. When I joined Cisco, one of my goals, one of the things I planned to take away from Cisco,
Hmm.
from being in Cisco, was the
The
CCIE, right?
CCIE.
I didn't want to have worked for Cisco and then now come out of working with Cisco without a CCIE. For me, it just felt like the best. It felt like I was positioned to pull that off, something like that.
Okay, and how was the planification? Because you told me that you failed 5 times. So how was the planification? Let's go from the start.
Ah, look, this is by far, and it's not too long ago. It's less than I passed about 2 months ago, right? So
2 months ago. So you still like you still wondered like
so
I'm a CC
I'm still um I'm
getting
still
used to it.
waking up. Yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
waking up
Yeah.
to the
But
realization.
how was the planning for it? How do you decide, okay, this is happening. I'm going for it.
So when I joined Cisco, this was 2 years ago in May, right? I had a meeting with my manager then at the time, and he's like, "Yeah, you need to set a goal, right? What you plan to achieve, apart from what your responsibility is. If you didn't know, Cisco Tac will rip your brains apart. If Cisco Tac is not for the weak, let me put it like that. That's the I don't think I've been this tried, right, in
Mm,
my life, or this challenged in my life, until I joined Cisco Tech. So he's like, yeah, apart from your responsibilities, I mean, ticket handling and all of that, log reviews, lab reproductions, and all, apart from those, what are things you would like to do? I think that's one thing I give to Cisco, because they actually attempt to help you along your career path, not just within Cisco, right? If you feel like what you want to do is tending more towards stuff that requires you to go out of Cisco, you have your managers. I mean, just have a good relationship with your manager and have that conversation. They can help drive and enable that motion
mm,
for you.
okay.
So he's like, yeah, what do you want to do? Tell me. I'm like, yeah, I think I want to go for the CCIE. At the time on my team, I'm not sure. Yeah, we had, look, on my team, and this is how I knew that the certifications, they're good, right? They get you to, how does Jeremy Chara say this? They get you to the gatekeepers, right? But what you know is what really keeps you in, right? So the guys on my team, not necessarily as decorated certification wise, right?
Mm,
But what those guys know, I mean, I work with one of the with the smartest people I've seen in my entire life, right? The things we read in textbooks to pass exams, right? Now you're meeting people who actually know them and probably were involved in setting those standards or doing lab reproductions to arrive at what the documentation says, right?
Mm,
So it was really cool to know that you could come into the Cisco Tech feeling like you have a CCMP, you think you know stuff. Nah, just wait until you start to interact with someone who doesn't care about having a CCNA on the team, but knows the length and breadth of that technology you're working
mm,
with. It's a niche technology, but they know pretty much every single detail about what's in it. So I met guys like that, right? And for me, the desire to pursue the CCIE rather was really big, right? It was strong for me because it was something I was coming with from my first employment, right? The very fact I mentioned in an interview that the level I want to get to in Cisco is CCIE level knowledge, right? And I mentioned it without having prior meditation, right?
yeah,
So
you didn't
that
have
thing
an
haunted me.
idea.
It haunted me for a very long time. So in my head, when he asks, what would you want to personally, what would you want to achieve? I'm like, yeah, I would want to move towards the CCIE. And he's like, oh yeah, so let's see, you have a CCMP now. All you just need to do is schedule the exam because you had the core exam, right? You passed already. So I'm like, yeah, he's like, yeah, but you might need to brush up stuff. But then he said, I would recommend that you attempt maybe the CCMP DevNet, right? Just to give you the programmability part of the mix. You might need to strengthen yourself there before you start to go for the CCIE. It will make your study less. That's what he was trying to tell me. Make your
Mm,
study less. You will need to study less the programmability part when if you understand it with the DevNet. And you have a CCNA in DevNet, is a it should be easy for you to jump into that. I'm like, oh yeah, let's do this. So I went right into it, did the CCMP in DevNet. Before the CCIE, that was the most difficult exam I've ever written in my life, right? Before the CCIE, I did the core DevNet exam. I think I failed it. I failed one and I failed it once and then took it again and then passed it. Then while I was doing that, I realized that the concentration exams align with other tracks in Cisco. For example, for the DevNet track, when you take the core exam, there are I think four or five concentration exams. One of them aligns with enterprise, the other one aligns with data center, another one aligns with security, another one aligns with whichever one.
wireless. So,
While yeah, so what I decided to do was if I take this concentration exam, which aligns with security, I can then take security core, and then I'll have three CCMPs because I with just one concentration exam, I can kill a CCMP for DevNet and CCMP for security
mm,
because they have a matching concentration exam.
okay,
Yeah, so that's what I did. I decided, oh yeah, I'll take the security DevNet security
okay,
concentration. I took that one. So that made me CCMP in DevNet,
mm,
right? And then I went for the I went for the security core exam, CCMP security core exam.
score
Yeah,
exam.
yeah, S core, that's the one. I went for that one. And then when I got that, I had two CCMPs, the CCMP in DevNet and CCMP in
Security.
security. So at this point, this was maybe 8 months into Cisco, right? So this was 2023, early 2023. What am I saying? Early 2024, right? So I'm like, yeah, so now I have all this CCMP. I'm ready to jump into my CCIE data center. And first, we need to establish that my job, my daily job in Cisco was data center server virtualization. So I'm always in interaction with data center stuff, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't studying for the exam.
Okay.
So when it was time to decide that, oh yes, now I have all these CCMPs, I think I want to just focus and do this CCIE in data center. I had another meeting with that manager,
Mm,
and he's like, yeah. So at this point, I make videos for Cisco. I'm part of the content creation team, right?
Mm.
So, and then I've written quite a few public documents, right? So at this point, I was having a conversation with him from a perspective, from this standpoint, right? I'm saying, yeah, I called his name. I'm like, I need your advice. I have three CCMPs and I could choose a path from here. I can choose to do the CCIE for any of these three, right?
Mm.
But I need your advice. What do you think I should do? I'm not saying tell me what to do, but if you were me, what you would do, right? And
It's the
he's
same
like,
thing, but I'm going to make it sound like it's
no,
not.
at the end of the day, it's my choice, right?
Hmm.
Because if he says this is what I think you should do, and I do something else I want, he won't be offended, right? And everything he's not going to. He made it clear from the start. Look, this is still going to be your choice, anyways. I'm just giving you an opinion, right? And it's like, I would say you should do data center, right? First, because you have quite a number of documentation and videos out there, right? For the organization Cisco. And it would make more sense if people watch those videos and they try to look you up and see that you have a CCIE, right? In data center, because most of those video contents are data center related. So he's like, yeah, it will make more sense when they see it gives you some kind of credibility to your, they
Yeah,
just feel like,
makes total sense.
yeah, they just feel like we can trust this guy because he has a CCIE. If I mean, if people think like that, so I decided, okay, yeah, it's a good advice. Plus, I always loved data centers, and at the time, AI was also just coming up,
Taking
and
off.
I knew that AI is going to make data center boom a little more than it was at the time.
Hmm.
I said, okay, let's jump into it. And then I hit my first roadblock. I tried to schedule the exam, and I think I tried to schedule it March or February, I think so. And I couldn't. They said my DC core was outdated, even though it was valid, right? It was outdated. So I had to study for the CCMP, for the DC core again,
Yeah.
right? So I did that, pulled that off, passed it, and then was now able to study for the CCIE, start studying for the CCIE.
Mm.
And that journey, that's the crazy
4
one
hours a
because,
day.
sorry?
4 hours a day studying.
No, not four, maybe eight. Maybe eight, like before work and after work, no break from work, maybe eight. And I did that because I wanted to get it before the end of 2024 so I could focus on other things in my life
Mm.
in 2025. So in my head, I'm like, yeah, I give myself between April, which is an unrealistic, which was an unrealistic approach. But then in my head, I'm like, yeah, I mean, people must have done stuff like this and they don't
Yeah.
have two heads. So
Yeah.
let's see how
It's
we can pull
possible.
it off. Yep. So I started doing that. I'll be up maybe 3 hours before 7, start studying, and then the remaining 5 hours I squeeze into after work, right? Lab repro, I'll put the exam topics in front of me, start take one topic after the other, right? I tried to be as consistent as I could be for 5 days a week. I wasn't doing Saturdays and Sundays because of the stress of being in TAC, right? So I just needed 2 days in a week where I could, because TAC is already stressful enough, right? Where I could decompress and then come back on Monday to even, and it helped me because I feel like I'm reinforcing what I learned if I give myself some time to forget what I learned and then come back. When I revisit it, it stays longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
don't know
that's
if that
called
makes
space the
sense.
repetition.
Sorry, say that again.
Space the repetition. So
Nice.
the thing is that we don't know the things we know because we know. We know them because we forgot, and then we reinforce that memory.
I didn't
And
even know it was a thing.
yeah, I had to start that to make it stick. So
Interesting.
yeah, that's called spaced repetition. So probably your name, you don't know your name, you remember your name because if someone calls you your second name, you won't
You pause
notice.
for a minute.
Yeah, it was like, is it okay? And if they no, it's I'm calling you on me, like you don't because you don't remember your name because you don't use it often.
Often,
Yeah,
correct.
that's the thing. Yeah, but
I
that's
guess
spaced
that's why I left
repetition.
those 2 days. I just wanted to do something else, try to forget everything I learned,
Yeah.
and then come back on Monday and be shocked, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's works. Trust me.
Yeah,
Science, by the
right.
way.
I did that. Say that again.
Science. That's
Science,
science.
nice.
Yeah.
You said it's called spatial
Spaced repetition.
spaced repetition.
Yeah.
Nice,
I'm
nice.
going to share some documents with you later.
Oh, I love that. Thanks.
Yeah. Let, let's
Yeah,
get to it.
so I did that and then took my first attempt in December.
And you passed.
For real?
Just checking.
Okay. Nah, I failed. It was a woeful failure. And again, that experience, I took the mobile lab, right, in Lisbon, Portugal. That
We do
experience,
have a Lisbon mobile lab here.
yes, there is. It comes to Lisbon, I think, once every 2 months.
No, I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, I had to take advantage of that.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
saves you the stress of traveling and
yeah. A
yeah.
lot, man. A lot.
So it's a bring your own device exam. Again, it will be the first time I'm writing that kind of exam. I had
Hmm.
to get a Windows computer with go there with a Windows computer, a monitor, your mouse, your keyboard. You go there and then they set it up for you, give you remote access to the lab in Brussels or wherever it
Okay.
is your lab is connected. And then the experience is almost the same. And I can say that now because I wrote both the physical and the remote one, right? So the experience once you start the exam is almost the same.
It's almost the
I
same.
didn't
Okay.
feel any difference. Apart from I think the only difference with the actual Brussels lab that I wrote was the fact that you know that the servers you're accessing are right
The
behind you, you
noise,
can see
everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it's pretty much you don't have to walk to the rack to remove cables. Now you're seated in front of your screen and everything is there.
Okay.
So I wrote that. Of course, you know there are two parts to the exam: the 3 hours design
Yeah.
and the 5 hour deploy.
Configuration, something.
Correct.
That's the configuration troubleshoot,
The deploy
essentially.
part, I just call it deploy. I don't like.
Yeah, that's the
I'm
point.
saving brain space, cramming what what the other O's are. He I realized that the first attempt I failed both, right? You see
Design.
myself fail design, and before I left the exam hall, I knew that I
You
knew
knew
that I
that
was going to
you
fail.
failed.
Right. I wrote the exam. We were only two of us in the room, right? I wrote with another guy who came to write enterprise. He finished maybe about 20 minutes before the time was over. And from the look on his face, I knew that he was happy with what he did. I was sad with what I was doing, right? And at the point, I reached out to the proctor to ask him, are you sure this device is supposed to be like this? I'm not sure why it is. And he told me, yes, one of your tasks is to make sure that you fix it to become the way you expect it to be before you start asking the question, before you start answering the questions. So I'm like, shoot, I'm done. And I just had to sit there. I didn't want to judge myself that
Mm.
I left the exam hall early. That's why I failed, right? So I wanted to sit down there and finish my time to know that even if they gave me an hour extra, I would have still failed, right?
Mm.
I wanted to be able to tell myself that. So I sat there, waited for the time to finish. Of course, I looked through the questions to see if when I'm going to take this again, I want to have a scope now, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
really zero in and study. I was telling him, yeah, I know I'm going to come here again. The guy was like, Jacob, have a little faith. I'm like, no, there's no faith here. There's no faith here. I know exactly what I did. And yeah, true to his word, that exam, I think I got my score the next day in the morning, not
Mm.
like the next day, like in maybe 6 hours or 7 hours. So like 12 a.m. in
Mm-hmm.
the morning. And at this point I already have a new manager
Mm.
at work, right? And then she was excited that I'm going on that journey because not too many people are interested because of the stress, right? So she's like, she's reaching out to me the next day in the morning. Jacob, how did it go? I hope you did good. I'm like, nah, I failed. And she's like, oh, so sorry, we'll take it again. I'm like, oh, yes, I'll take it again. So before now, right? Because I thought I was a smart person, right? I always thought that everybody who doesn't pass the okay, this is how I think in my head, right? What are you doing writing the CCIE up to 3 times? Why are you failing? Are you not studying? What's wrong with you? Right?
Mm,
In my head, that's what
mm.
I always thought. So I just thought no matter how difficult the exam is, if I write it once, I'm only permitted to fail. And this is a standard I set for myself, which was a very dangerous one. It did me harm, right? In my head, I'm thinking, what are you doing writing that exam more than twice? You write it once, you fail, you learned. Now go write it again and pass. Yeah, but it turns out the CCIE is not like that.
Oh, you found it the hard way.
Nah, I found out the hard way. Nah. I don't care how smart you are, that exam will humble you. It's crazy. So I went for I prepared again. In my head, I was thinking, yeah, December, let me give myself another 3 months because I can just, instead of waiting for so long and then you have so many changes in the curriculum and
Hmm.
all of that, I just want to go again and take it again. So, you see, these 5 attempts I'm talking about were taken between December and June, like December 2024 and June 2025. So I went again in February. I'm thinking, yeah, now I have a scope. I went back to studying full time, hooked up with a few friends who I knew were on similar journeys with me. And then I started to ask them, oh, dude, can you just share white papers with me, right? Maybe I'm reading the wrong stuff because I know that I answered certain questions in the exam that I felt I answered with information in the white paper, right? And looking at those, I'm looking at my score, the percentage score, and it's suggesting that I failed those sections, right? So I need to double check. So that's when a few of my friends, there's a guy from Peru, there's another one from France, and they're like, "Oh no, you can't just rely on white papers and Cisco specific documents. You need to go the extra mile. You need to start to look at RFCs. You need to, you know,
IEEE draft,
correct
these kind of things that are outside of Cisco ecosystem.
scope."
Yeah.
And yeah, they started to share those docs with me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you want to know stuff about, say, let me look for a good example, VXLAN, right?" And yeah, there was a major change between 3.0 and 3.1 version of the data center exam, right? In the 3.0, you were asked to use CLI to configure all the VXLAN related stuff. In 3.1, which is what I write, you'd have to use the GUI Nexus dashboard to pull that off. So you need to know what's happening at the base of the CLI because that's what you troubleshoot with. You go to the CLI to check, but you also need to know how to set up VXLAN, EVPN infra from the Nexus dashboard web UI. It was a difficult time. I had to be going back and forth. I wrote that one again and still failed design and deploy. Right. Then I came back to say, Jacob, what's going on? Jacob, what's going on? Are you not smart enough? And then, so in my head, I was so offended. I was really offended. I failed the second time, right? I decided there's no point waiting. Let me just reschedule the next one and go for it again. I feel I'm getting, yeah, but I could see the improvement in my percentage score,
Mm.
right? So that also made me feel like even though I failed deploy and design, I saw there was some where I scored 30 something percent earlier, we were now at 50 something percent.
So there
So
are
I'm
some
like,
improvements there.
yeah, there's some improvements. I think now I know that I should push a little further, right? So I didn't waste time
So
as
you
devastating as
went
it
to
felt.
the fifth attempt.
Sorry?
You went to the fifth, like in how long?
The third attempt was in April.
No, the fifth
The
attempt,
fifth attempt was in June. So
June.
after the third attempt, what happened to me was the gap between the third and the fifth. April, fifth was in June. So I wrote in May again.
Mm.
So I wrote April, May, June. That was the progression. So the third attempt, I'm saying this was the one that crippled me because on the third attempt I passed the deploy. But then I failed the design. So this was the first time I was actually passing one of the sections, right? So it was really painful that I didn't I just pass both. Now I have to go back and start to study all over again because I failed the supposedly easy part of the exam,
Yeah.
right? And then my fourth attempt, which is the one I
Yeah.
went to Brussels for, yeah. Same exact thing happened. I passed deploy and failed design again. It's
Okay.
devastating
But
because,
you're getting better.
yeah, I wouldn't even say I was getting better because the results were so close, right? So,
You didn't fail on deploy, it means that you didn't get worse.
yeah, yeah, actually, you're right.
Yeah, so okay. It's not worse.
Yeah. So,
So
I mean, it's not worse, but I didn't feel it was better, right? So
yeah.
in my head, I'm like, yeah, let's give it a final shot, right? After the first attempt, actually, I was at the point, after the fourth attempt, sorry, I was at the point where I was making up my mind not to take any Cisco certification anymore, right? And this was my reason, right? In my head, I'm thinking, what can I be doing so wrong that Cisco keeps failing me? That's how I was thinking, right? And I had a conversation with a few friends and a few really important people in my life, right? You know the weird part? I think they're people who just know me, right? They're like, I was complaining to them like this, right? Saying, nah, I'm done with Cisco certifications for now. I mean, worst case scenario, just start a new track, decide to do maybe enterprise, which I thought was easier, right? In my head. And like, yeah, I just start to do enterprise and they kept quiet. They didn't say anything and they waited for me to book the exam again. And when I was done booking the exam, the fifth attempt, I couldn't tell everybody but one person, right? This last attempt, I couldn't even tell my manager because it was starting to be embarrassing. I felt bad coming back every attempt to tell her, yeah, I
I
failed
failed.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't. I just didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anybody. And plus the money I was spending to pay for an exam, I didn't know if I would pass or not. Right. So I just kept it. I only told one person, and it was someone I knew would not discourage me from doing it. So, and when I scheduled the exam, I was mentioning, and the person was like, "Oh yeah, I knew that complaint was just a joke. I know you were going to do it again. You will not just give up that you didn't pass it." I'm like, yeah, I didn't know that about myself. Yeah, I scheduled it again, and this time I went in and passed. The cool part in the fifth attempt was I wrote it in a way. The reason I didn't tell anybody was if I didn't pass, I didn't need to explain to anybody, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
but if
Nobody
I
knows.
pass, yes, if I didn't pass, rather, I'll just take it. So in my head, I didn't want to expect too much from that exam. So I just made up my mind, go there, do my best, come out and move on, right? If the result comes out, I fail, yeah, take it and move on. I wasn't really expecting anything. I wasn't expecting something really big, right? If I pass, all good, we're happy, right? So when I came back from the exam hall, I just dumped everything, like set up back, brought my monitor back home, set everything back, had an appointment for the next day, right? So I just went about my daily activity. I went about my life as though I wasn't expecting a result from Cisco. Nothing. I just moved on.
Mm. Mm.
And I think by the next day in the morning, I just saw a message from my manager. So apparently, in Cisco, if you're a Cisco staff and you pass the exam, your manager gets notified that they have a new CCIE, yeah, on their team. So I didn't know that. I just saw a message from my manager. She's like, "Oh, Jacob, I'm so proud of you." The first thing I could do was apologize. I'm like, "I'm so sorry I didn't tell you I was taking." She's like, "You made me proud. I'm so proud of you." It feels like I got the CCIE, and yeah, it
Yeah.
was a long journey. At the end of the day, it was worth it.
Man, that's a long ride. A long ride. So
I
Before we
can't believe
close
I
this
wrote it
one,
up to 5 times too. Trust me. I can't believe it. I find it hard to accept that I did.
you did it. And so before we close this one, final words of recommendation for those who want to follow the same path, the same journey as you took. What would you recommend to someone who wants to get into IT or wants to get into become a CCIE?
Um, I'm a believer in everybody has a unique journey, right? And no two people's journey would be the same, right? So starting from that with that understanding, right? I feel like what I would want to say is first, if you're interested in technology, right? I feel like you should everybody who's interested in technology want to should want to be the best at that technology. You know what I mean? Like know it to the end. Don't just do the barest minimum to get by, and yeah, all you want to know is get things running, and once it's running you are good, and then you have a mediocre environment that anybody can break into. Nothing is secure, nothing is properly designed. Yeah, I would say that first come to the point where you're saying, yeah, my journey is unique, yeah, but then at the same time, when I jump into this space, what I want to do is be the best at it as much as it is within my power, right?
Hmm.
So take advantage of every resource that is available, right? And for me, someone referred to me one time as an opportunist, right?
And you should be.
I have this opportunistic approach, right, to certifications and those kind of things, to growth in tech generally. Feel like there's so much resources and opportunities that are available to every one of us, but most times we are not hungry enough to see them. So I would say that my one strength I have is that opportunistic approach. I'm always looking for what can I suck out of this issue or this platform I'm being offered, right? What can I pull out of it for myself? So a good example would be I'm in Cisco now, right? Apart from the fact that yeah, I'm in Cisco, I work with Cisco, I'm here to do what Cisco wants, right? And apart from that, one thing that always plays in my head is yeah, what's in it for me here, right? What am I pulling out of this for me? So being in Cisco, I've been able to work on certain things for myself. I mean, being in Cisco enabled me to learn server virtualization technologies, right? Enabled me to also pay attention to certain things in VMware. I find myself reading virtualization documentations that I would have no business reading, right? But if I didn't have that extra drive to be like, yeah, even though it's not stuff related to my work, right? I don't need it to get paid, right? But I'm saying, yeah, while I'm here, since it's knowledge surrounding what I do, why not pick it up, right? And then I realized that I picked up so many things along my journey that
Hmm.
eventually in the future someone would probably hire you for those tiny little things you picked up. Yeah,
Exactly.
and this includes things like soft skills and yeah, paying attention to just technologies that don't look like they're relevant to you now, but they might come in handy eventually. One that is all over the place now is AI, right? And I'm starting to pay attention to that a lot because, of course, apart from the fact that the CCIE data center attempted to introduce the AI thing, right? AI infrastructure. Now I'm starting to push myself to find out what's going on with in the AI infrastructure space and how ready are the currently existing data centers to either accommodate that change or migrate fully to become AI ready data centers, right? And yeah, it will move you into studying things like the backend, inter GPU communications with super NICs and all of that cool stuff for training AI models, and then the front end for inferencing and all of that. It you At some point you will just those skills I might not need immediately, right? But I know that
They
we're
might
going
help you in
there,
the
and
future.
resources to study those stuff are available for me. So I just reach out to start getting my hands
Getting
dirty with those
okay.
solutions. Yeah, that's my advice to anybody. Just become an opportunistic. Look for there's always something. Become an opportunist rather in quotes. There's always something to to pick out for yourself in the midst of all the chaos going on around your life. Yeah. A younger me right now, what I'll tell myself is, because I know that there are times I'll probably be a better programmer now if I was opportunistic enough, right? To Because I had a lot of developers around me when I was much younger, and I could have just paid a little more attention to what they were doing, but I didn't. So now I'm having a hard time learning programming,
Cold
right?
thing.
Yeah, learning code and all. So yeah, that would be my immediate advice. And what else? Nothing for now. I mean, it could change in the next 2 weeks, but for now, where I'm at, that's what I can
That's
say.
what you would recommend. Okay.
Yeah.